Hey everyone, it's Flamsy here, and today we're going to talk about the absolute chaos of Sandbox's launch. Now, I'm not here to hate on the game. There are genuinely some great games on this platform, and it would be callous to say that they are just copies of other games or AI slop. However, we do need to talk about how Facepunch Studios seems to think that they can just piss down our backs and tell us it's raining. I'm tired of video game studios and delivering on games, and this game has been a big example of an underwhelming experience. Anyway, let's just get right into what went well with Sandbox. First of all, there are sincerely some great community-made games on the Sandbox hub to choose from, including Trouble in Terrorist Town, Ghoul Grounds, Prop Hunt, Rogue Justice Golf, Grubs, Ragdoll Skateboard Simulator, Realistic Car Driving, Strike Force, Terry's Granny, and so much more. These games were made by hard-working development studios or independent single developers that are up and coming in the industry. So hand-waving these away as AI slop just because of a few bad apples like Mow the Lawn or Skin Case Opening Simulator is ridiculous. Now, other than that, some of the official stuff is pretty neat too. The new official Flatgrass map for Sandbox, as in the Sandbox game mode, is fantastic. And the other modes aren't half bad either. Jumper is a fun, yet rage-inducing time. And Guess It and Battle Bugs are fun board game experiences that you can play on Sandbox. Sausage Survivors 1 and 2 are fun as well. FP4 and Cardinal are interesting experimental shooter/card games respectively. Amazing and Bomb Royale have potential. Memory Quest and Walker are simple yet compelling. And the theme park game is a game that I could see myself sinking hundreds of hours into. Transposer is a good little time as well. As for Deathmatch, I haven't been able to experience it since no one really plays it, but I'm sure it's a good time as well. The Opium game that Facepunch is developing is promising too. Unfortunately, that is where my praises for this game and the platform end, and the negatives start to begin. So let's get started with the even better ifs, if you want to call it that. First of all, a lot of the functionality of the Sandbox mode is either missing, broken, or half-baked. When setting the FOV to anything higher than 90, you can clearly tell that the crowbar in the view model is outside of the hand that is supposed to be grabbing it. This is ridiculous and should have been fixed on launch, but somehow wasn't, and it was an oversight. The next issue I have is that there is no water overlay when underwater. So for the game's debut map, Construct, there is nothing to distinguish you from being underwater other than the noises and physics. There is also no ripple effects on the water when you shoot bullets into it, and it's just ridiculous because Gary's Mod has this, but the spiritual successor doesn't. The next issue has been patched recently, and that is the lack of gun reload sounds. Recently, they added the reload sounds back into the game, but the game still lacks a reload sound effect for the rocket launcher, most likely because the RPG reloads automatically without a button input. Now, there's so many issues to address, let's just speed run through the next few issues. Players can't harm other players when ramming into them with a makeshift car. The mirrors and windows on Construct aren't reflective or see-through respectively. There aren't any decals when using the crowbar on any surface. There is weird blocky effect sometimes when you take fall damage or shoot guns in dark areas. The crowbar doesn't have unique sounds when hitting different types of ground. The gravity gun feature of the beam gun doesn't have any sound effects. The RPG doesn't match the rest of the UI. The shotgun will sometimes leave a residual effect in the middle of the air. Your skin doesn't match the view model in Sandbox. When spawning items with a tool gun, there are no sparky sparticle effects. The official game mode called S&box doesn't even load. There's no finger or eye poser, no inflation tool, no way to turn off thinking, drawing for the beam gun, freezing/unfreezing items, thrusters, etc. You cannot turn on ignore players or keep corpses. There are no cameras, no way to turn off PvP or turn on God mode. And finally, Official Facepunch developed games and maps either lack a description or have a string of code as a description because the developers couldn't bother fixing it. This is just ridiculous, okay? Like, all these things should have been fixed before launch. If they want to release the game, call it early access because it's not finished. Now, some of the other half-baked features from the sandbox mode is the lack of NPCs in the game, as well as the fact that NPCs AI is absolute dog water. This may not seem important to some, but because of this, we can't really have interesting NPC fights that made the original Garry's Mod so fun to mess around with. This, in tandem with the lack of an ignore players button, makes the new sandbox mode virtually impossible to set up NPC fights or obstacle courses. You can't even give NPC specific weapons anymore like you could in Garry's Mod. There are also no workshop add-ons to replace effects or add in new effects, such as a few model bumping, or better blood, or explosion add-ons. Things like that were in the original Garry's Mod because you can change everything about Garry's Mod. This, you can't change that much. You can only add things to the game, not change it. Now, speaking of the workshop, the queue menu only loads so many workshop items at a time, making a selection of available props, NPCs, and weapons feel especially bare bones. If, say, 500 props and NPCs were selectable instead of 50, players wouldn't feel so confined to only use the most popular and recent props the NPCs to choose from. And finally, we have to talk about the AI issue. A lot of games made on the platform use unappealing AI thumbnails, and Garry has officially stated that this is not an issue that a studio needs to deal with, and it is instead an issue that the players themselves will have to decide on. I personally disagree with this approach, and feel as if AI thumbnails were banned and their thumbnails were instead basic text, like the other games without thumbnails, this game wouldn't be getting the amount of negative press it is getting. And here's the real kicker. Thing that no one is talking about. On the official Sandbox Discord, Garry Newman said the negative Steam reviews were quote-unquote AI generated. This could be because of a specific review that people were bringing to Garry's attention was machine translated out of Russian into English, but I think Garry is smart enough to know that saying this will make people believe that there are actual bots negatively downvoting this game. Not to mention that he compared people wanting the game to be called Garry's Mod 2 to people voting for the goddamn Nazi party. Too long didn't watch? Facepunch messed up. The game shouldn't have been released in this state. The Sandbox, Walker, and Juicebox game modes weren't ready for launch, and most of the community-made games need a lot of work on them as well. But the most egregious thing about this release has been Facepunch's response. Instead of trying to fix the platform's problems, they decided to hand-wave it away. Even with the recent update, all the issues mentioned haven't been fixed. Instead, they have focused on adding more features for developers to use. And while that is great, 90% of the players won't ever use it. So, to any Facepunch developers watching this video, please take what I've said to heart and fix this game. I believe in the potential of Sandbox as a platform, and all it takes is a few updates to make it a true spiritual successor to Garry's Mod. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to my channel to watch new videos on Sandbox, Lethal Company, and more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.